I am speaking about a language that all of us were born knowing how to use, and that unfortunately we may have unlearned. So this morning is about getting back in touch with our imagination. Now, if you look up the word imagination, it says the act or power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses or never before wholly perceived in reality. Creative ability. That's what I'm talking about this morning. Our creative ability, our ability to imagine something, which is the first step in the creative process. And then, of course, you got to do some things after that, but the first step, and the one that many of us fail to do, is to take the time to imagine the life we want, or the changes we'd like to have in life, because you know what happens? We throw obstacles in our way. Oh, I couldn't have that. Well, that couldn't be. So it's about, just forget about that. Just gonna live in the world of imagination right now and exercise that. The language of creation is imagination. It is seeing pictures in the mind's eyes. Usually those pictures will evoke a feeling, good or bad. It was the first language that any of us spoke. Learning the language gave us a way to communicate the pictures, okay, or ideas we had in our mind. When you were a baby, you got the connection that if I cry, Mama will bring me a bottle, right? Okay, and then you acted on that. What happened? You got the bottle, right? You figured out how to communicate what it was that you had in your mind's eye. So imagination is the language that was never taught, though, for like I said, for many of us, it may have been untaught as we grew up. I had a little test. I found this on the internet a few weeks ago, and I thought this was a great test. It involves your imagination. It's called the bathtub test. During a visit to the mental asylum, I asked the director, how do you determine whether or not a patient should be institutionalized? Well, said the director, we fill up a bathtub, and then we offer a teaspoon, a teacup, and a bucket to the patient and ask him or her to empty the bathtub. Oh, I understand, I said. A normal person would use the bucket because it's bigger than the spoon or the teacup. No, said the director, a normal person would pull the plug. Would you like a bed near the window? So, how many people got a bed near the window? Imagination, pull the plug. What's the easiest way to do it? Imagination is nothing short of evoking the power of creation on our own behalf. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, imagination taps the very roots of being and utilizes the same power that brought the world forth from chaos. Your imagination is the power of the Word of God operating through you. Imagination is the creative power in action. It is the creative power that is within each of us. Now, if we have that creative power within us, would it stand to reason that we have that power without also having a mandate to use it wisely and well? Sometimes we have this tendency to use our creative ability with it. Oh, what if that happens? Oh my God, what will I do then? In the awful scenarios we make up in mind. How many of us actually set aside maybe 10 minutes in the day to really imagine or visualize or practice our power of imagination to create what we do want in our lives, seeing ourselves joyful and having the things or the people in our lives that we want to have in our lives in a way that we want it. If you go back to the Bible, in Genesis, it speaks about the beginning. In the beginning there was God and no thing. And God spoke its word and created all that is. Let there be light. Let there be land masses. Let there be sea. So it had to start with the mind of God imagining something and speaking its word to bring it forth. You know what? We're little godlings, you know? If a baby duck is a duckling and with little expressions of God, then we're godlings, okay? And we do the same thing. We get a picture in our mind, and then we can speak it into existence and take the action steps that are necessary in order to bring it forth. but we use it first by the power of imagination. And you know, you can use words to describe things, but there's something about a picture that just really is so beyond just trying to describe something. I remember there was something I saw in a Macy's catalog or online or something, and I happened a few days later to be at the Macy's store, and I thought, oh, let me see if they have this item. So the sales lady came up and said, can I help you? And I described whatever it was, you know, how it looked and the colors and all that. And she showed me several things that technically met the description, but they weren't it. And then I remembered, ooh, I printed that out, it's in my car. So I went back to my car, I got the picture, I came up and I showed it to her, and she goes, oh, okay, I know what you mean. It's being able to take a picture, something we see in our mind's eye, and make it visible to the world. That's what we do through the creative process. So those pictures are more than representations of wording and form. They're actually evoke a feeling and a passion. They either excite you or they just simply turn you off. So the power of our words to describe something can be very powerful. It's I remember watching a show, I think it was on TV last year. It was about Einstein, about the life of Einstein as he grew up, and he would see things, and then he'd see the mathematical formula in his head, and I'm like, I don't do that. I see the picture of the thing. I have no idea what the mathematical formula of the thing looks like, or the chemical code, or anything else. And I don't think most of us see that way. Now, that's useful in the creative process. Once an idea is out there, you're going to have somebody write it down. A musician might write the musical notes. But the first thing is the idea or the form of something that really evokes passion or feeling, right? Something that excites us. I saw a commercial on TV, and I wrote this down because I love this commercial. It was probably in the 1990s. And in this television commercial, it opens up like it's a Norman Rockwell scene. A father and his young son, who's about 6 or 7, are sitting in a rowboat on the lake fishing. And it's obviously very early morning. The sun's not fully up yet, and there's this mist rising off the lake. And the son breaks the silence by saying, "Dad, where do babies come from?" And the father says, without missing a beat, under particular circumstances, a male-female interface may result in an incipient life form after a 9-month gestation period, at which the commercial trails off. And the son's sitting here looking at his father like, what? So, you know, you can have the words down technically, but you need to evoke the feeling. You need to evoke the picture in the mind of yourself and the other person. It's about getting color and form and getting that sensory thing. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about imagination. Words are important, but the essential part is a picture in our own mind that we get with the thing, because that's a thing that will inspire action and passion and the stick-to-itiveness to get the thing done. Dr. James Melton says in his book, Your Right to Fly, what is imagination? The mind works on pictures and feelings and not on words. And then Dr. Maxwell Maltz said that imagination is the real powerhouse of the mind, and that anytime there's a contest between imagination and willpower, imagination wins. Okay, have you ever been like on a diet, or you're cleaning up your diet, and you're not going to eat these particular foods, right? Maybe you're not going to have sugar, or a hot fudge sundae, or McDonald's french fries, or anything like that. But if you start thinking about something like that, and you keep entertaining that picture, and it gets real big in your mind, what do you think is going to happen? Who's going to win, willpower or imagination? It's the thing that evokes our passion, that gets us to act, that makes us or propels us forward to bring the thing into our reality. Thomas Edison was one of our most prolific inventors, and he was a true genius. Edison says he never thought in words, he always thought in pictures. And he said this, it is because I never think in words, I think in pictures, that he was able to bring forth so many inventive things. There are several stories told about Thomas Edison that are just really great stories. But one of those is when he would be interviewing for engineers. He would bring the engineers into like a laboratory setting, and he would give them a light bulb. And he'd ask, what's the volume of this light bulb? Well, you have all these young engineers with their slide rules, and they're pulling out their slide rules. This is in the old days. pull out their slide rules and they start measuring and doing all these mathematical computations, and it might take 30 minutes for this applicant to come up with the answer. But you know who will be hired? The guys that would go over and get a measuring cup, unscrew the light bulb, fill it up with water, dump it in the measuring cup, and come up with the right answer in about less than a minute. Okay? He wanted to see what was their imagination, how well they could imagine, okay? How well they could think on their feet. Can you think of solution where you get stuck and bogged down in the how-tos? Because you know what? If you allow your imagination to get stuck in the how-tos or the why you can't, you'll never create anything. It is about empowering your mind to see yourself as solution, not doing it the right way, not coming up with necessarily the right mathematical formula, but being able to see the end. That's a very important component. Begin with the end in mind. In his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey tells us, begin with the end in mind. And he goes on to describe it this way. Begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created twice. There's a mental or first creation and a physical or second creation of all things. Think about it. Think about the house you live in. I don't care if it's a house or an apartment or even a tent. It matters not. Think about the place where you live. Okay? It started as an idea in someone's mind, then it became a drawing and a set of plans, and then action was taken to construct it or build it. And in truth, everything that we see in the visible world is a result first of an idea in mind that is then acted on. You know what? If you're not getting the results you want in life, maybe the problem is you're not starting with the first cause or the creative process to bring that forth. The first thing that we have to do is we have to be willing to start with the end in mind with an idea. I remember hearing this story a long time ago. It was true. A police car pulls up in front of the house, and Grandma comes out because Grandpa's in the back, and the police are helping him out of the car. And the policeman says to her, we brought this gentleman home. He was at the park, and he was lost and didn't know how to get here. And Grandma puts her hands on her hips and says, what do you mean you didn't know how to get home? You've been going to that park for 15 years. You know how to get home. And Grandpa leans real close and whispers in her ear, I was just too tired to walk. He had an end in mind. He had a desired outcome. He did what he needed to do to get home. He told the police he was lost and didn't know where he was going. He got himself a ride home. That's the power of imagination to get things done in our lives. Albert Einstein, you probably all heard this, said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Why is that? Because knowledge is limited to what we already know. It's limited to what's already on the internet, okay? The imagination can transcend that. It can create things that never were, or can recreate things that were at a lower level and take it to the next level. Our imagination is our powerhouse, but we have to be willing to use it. You know, I love what G.K. Chesterton wrote when he said, there are no rules of architecture for a castle in the clouds. There is no limit to what we can build in our mind. No rules of architecture that need to be followed, no building codes to be enforced, no permits to be obtained, no EPA guidelines to satisfy. You can create a space in your mind, and I even have a name for it. You could call it the Imaginarium. It would be like this room in your mind where you go to just imagine things that you want. You don't allow no's and excuses or can'ts or don'ts or won'ts or they won't let me in. It's just a place to play with what if. What possibilities are there? What would you like to see? Create your own Imaginarium and spend some quality time there every single day. That will create the life that you want to live. Give your imagination free rein. Limit no idea. Be willing to explore and play with ideas. We all know how to do this when we were 6. How many of us got in trouble for daydreaming in school when we were told to pay attention and to do the things we're supposed to do? Now, I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to have to pay attention in school and learn some things. But you know what? We also need to spend quality time dreaming, playing what if, exploring the possibilities of what is it that you would like. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. If there was a fairy godmother and she poof appeared to you and said, you've got 30 seconds to name 3 things that you want, and I'll grant all 3 wishes. No questions asked. Most of us would be, because we're not in touch with what we want. We're only in touch with what doesn't work and what we can't have, and the rules that we have to satisfy, and all the things and all the reasons why not. So we need to get better about preparing for the magic genie to appear. We need to know what it is that we want. We need to explore our imagination and know what it is that we want. I also like to say is what is up to you. How you get it is up to God. If we had to know the answers to everything, nothing would have ever been done. Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, every other genius that's ever lived were not bogged down by why things couldn't be. They just saw things and said, why not? And then went after them. They found a way to bring them. You know, if you have a divine idea that's been planted in your head, in your imagination, if God gave you the idea, which God did, then God will give you a way if you show God that you're willing to work with it, that you'll take that idea and nurture it and work with it. Anything is possible. We need to believe that God, through us, can do absolutely anything, but we have to be willing to dance in the creative process, and most of us don't. We're just trying to get through life, filling our to-do list, doing the things we have to, try to make the money, pay the bills, get the trash out on time, do all the things that we think we have to do, such that we're not really connecting with that divine part of ourselves, that sacred space inside of us, where dreams live, where the creative process is, where God is, where God speaks to us and gives us those divine ideas. God is trusting us with divine ideas. I don't know how many of you here ever read the Harry Potter books. But I remember when they first came out, I was hearing about these books, and I think I was about the 2nd or 3rd book had been released by the time I heard all the commotion about this, and I thought, well, I should read that book and find out what it's about. I was hooked. They were the best books. The imagination in those books was just, I would tell Brian, I would be reading chapter, oh my God, this could become a reality. This is so cool. Nobody's ever thought of this. Like the pictures that move and wave to you, we now have those. If you have an iPhone, you can take a picture and look at the motion in it. It is so cool. And her ideas, and it was just like, I could see why it captured the mind of a child. And I think we should all read books like that because it speaks to us and it awakens that child within us. But J.K. Rowling talks about how this came to her, and she was in her imagination, and she nurtured it, and she played with it, and she brought it forth, and she was rejected by a number of publishers who are probably still kicking themselves today for not saying yes to her, because it was the starting point of a great series of books. It was all imagination. It was somebody playing with the idea that came into their mind. She said she didn't dream it up, it just kind of came into her head. How many ideas have you had come into your head where you showed them the door on the other side and brushed them on their way? How many of us take the time to stop that idea and play with that idea and nurture that idea and then bring it forth? Who knows? We could have another J.K. Rowling sitting here, and it may not be writing a book. It could be inventing something. Become an Imagineer. You know what an engineer is? Somebody who works with the mechanical details of how things work, and they take things apart and then put them back together, right? So an Imagineer is someone who plays with imagination. You don't need to go to school for that. In fact, it's probably better if you didn't go to school for that, if you just played in your own mind. Carl Sagan said, imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere. You need your imagination. How many of us would even get up out of bed if we didn't imagine breakfast and satisfy the hunger inside of us, or imagining where we wanted to go today, how we wanted to play? It's the engine that starts things and keeps us moving. As children, we were masters of creativity and imagination. Kids can spend long periods of time just daydreaming, just playing what if, and they come up with all kinds of crazy ideas. But you know, some of them aren't crazy. And the way to have better ideas is to have lots of them, including the crazy ideas. As we grow up, we tend to restrict our daydreaming in favor of reality and serious business. If we get an idea of something we'd like to be or do or see or invent, we have an almost instinctive knee-jerk reaction that comes up along with it as to all the reasons why it can't be done, we aren't the ones to do it, it's impossible. Our imagination should be given free rein regularly, not to the exclusion of our responsibilities or commitments, but we should not let our real life edge that out. Our ability to dream is a divine ability that's been implanted inside of each and every one of us. And this should be a time when no obstacles are allowed in. It reminds me of the old story, I know you've heard it before, but it fits here, about the lady who's asleep and she's dreaming, and in the dream, a monster is chasing her. He's big and he's ugly and he keeps chasing her. And she's running and she's running and she's running, and finally she comes up against a wall and she's just tired. And she turns around and she faces the monster and says, "What are you going to do to me?" And the monster says, "I don't know, lady, it's your dream." It's your dream, it's your life, it's your imagination. You can do, be, or have anything you want in your imagination. You know, we get enough no's out here in the world. We don't have to be giving ourselves no's. At least in our imagination, we can say yes. Because you know what? In truth, God always says yes anyway. If we say, "I can do this, I want that," God is always saying yes. But the same token, when we say, "I can't, it's impossible, I don't know how to do this," God also says yes. So we get a yes no matter what we say. So we should be asking the question in a way that gets us to where we want to go rather than away from where we want to go. I think you probably heard the story, but again, it bears repeating, about the baby elephant. In circuses, what they used to do, they would tie the baby elephant to a strong, like a metal chain, to a big stake in the ground, and the baby elephant would pull against it and couldn't get free. Well, as the elephant grew, then they could tie just a little rope around his leg to a little wooden stake in the ground, and the elephant was so conditioned that it couldn't go anywhere. This little stake, I mean, what big elephants can tear out whole trees, they can tear the stake out, but they don't even try because they've learned what their limitations are. And I think in much the same way, we're like that elephant that got conditioned to our limitations. When we reach a point where we stop pulling against the limitations, we stop exploring, we stop imagining, we stop playing with the ideas in our mind of what if and wouldn't it be great. We need to go back to that place of childhood and go back to exploring what it is that it might be nice to do and to have, to be, to see. And all of us have that same ability inside of us. Imagination invokes the power of creation on our behalf. Most of us are much better at imagining the ain't it awful scenarios rather than the ain't it wonderful scenarios. How many of you take time when you buy a lottery ticket to imagine yourself winning? To see yourself holding that big check as the winner? Most of us go, "Oh, I'm probably not going to win. I'll just spend a couple bucks and buy a ticket." You know what? If we're going to buy a ticket, we should at least honor the creative process by seeing ourselves winning. What would I do with that money? Wow, wouldn't this be great? I could do this or that or the other thing. That's the way we should be approaching it. We should be using the divine faculty to further ourselves along the path that we want to go. We should be willing to play what if. What if is the language of imagination creation. What if the world is round and you can fly east by sailing west? What if the power of nonviolence can bring war to an end? What if paying attention to ordinary dreams can unlock the royal road to happiness and prosperity? What if an electric current passed through a particle filament so that it can glow with warmth and white light and dispels darkness? Learn to play the what if games. What if I could do this? What if I could invent that? What if I could go here? What if I could do this other thing? What if I could have that relationship? What if? And explore it and play with it and imagine it and see it in your mind. Dress it up with color and give it music. Give it passion. Make it sing and dance so that you can get excited by it, because when you invoke the passion with the picture in your mind, it is very powerful and can bring the thing into reality in our lives. I want to close with a poem that I read long ago that I thought was an imaginary poem. It's by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and it goes like this. What if you slept? And what if in your sleep you dreamed? And what if in your dream you went to heaven, and there plucked a strange and beautiful flower? And what if, when you awoke, you had that flower in your hand? You do, but you've got to invoke the power of your imagination for the things that you do want in your life. Be willing to play with it. Be willing to go into your imaginarium and be an Imagineer and create what it is that you do want. You've already got enough of what you don't want. You might as well use this divine faculty, this divine ability, this creative power, this creative center in you to create what you do want and not what you don't want. Namaste.